topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
And welcome to Triversity Talk. I'm Wendy Stewart, and I am here with you on this rainy Wednesday night in March. I don't know where the time has gone, but here we all are tonight. What an insane week, really, in the news with what happened with Next Benedict. I have to say, I'm very proud of Triversity. They held a vigil on Sunday night and honored Nex's passing and honored every trans kid that might be going through this right now. And it was great to see the support of the community and how people related to each other. And just so, you know, Triversity, as all of you know, we are located in Milford, Pennsylvania, which is Pike County. And I feel in many ways we represent LGBTQs that are in rural counties, really all over the country in so many ways. So it's great when people turn out for a vigil, especially when someone so young ends up passing because they were bullied. And it just gives some kind of affirmation to all the kids out there. You're not alone. We have your back and we're looking out for you. Ironically enough, I attended a play this week that many of you may not even know who this is, but one of the first people to transition was someone named Christine Jorgensen. And I was a small child when that happened. I remember my mother talking about it. And I remember saying, well, how did this person go from a boy to a girl? I was like 5 years old. And my mother said, well, there's an operation that you can go overseas and get to make that happen. And even back then, it resonated with me. The play was here in New York and it ran for a week. It was really quite a wonderful play. It was called The Christine Jorgensen Story. And it just, the irony of that going on now, what's happening with trans rights, what's happening with these horrific bills that are being passed out there or even being considered. You got to take it and put it all together, which is why for tonight's show, I'm very excited about who I'm having on tonight. First of all, they're beyond dear friends. They're so completely committed to LGBTQ plus causes. I've worked with them in Triversity, but they both have backgrounds in advocacy, huge backgrounds in advocacy. They decided to form the Zimmerman-Pierce Democrats. It's Pike County's first Democratic club dedicated to LGBTQ issues. And when I first heard they were doing this, I'm like, now we have a Democratic club that specifically will address these issues, right? Like supporting public policies that advance LGBTQ priorities, electing Democrats that support LGBTQ rights. But I guess at the end of the day, you know, the focus is on the support for the LGBTQ community, which depending on how things are going to go in the election, my God, this is something that's so needed. So put your hands together for John Stephen Hellman and Lisa Jenkins, Zimmerman-Pierce Democrats. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
No, thank you, Wendy. And I have to say, this is like the gayest thing that I can say in response to so it's actually pronounced purse.
I know, but you guys changed the spelling a couple of times, and
yeah,
it's becoming a years.
So that's my fault. The Zimmerman was my fault. I look at this book on my coffee table every day and didn't realize Zimmerman was spelled with 2 N's. I own it. That was it. Yeah.
But Lisa, I get, but if I have picked this up as Pierce or Peice.
Pie.
Pie.
Yeah, and it's the family pronounces it purse, and it's a lot more fun for an LGBTQ organization
It is,
to have the word purse in it.
As in, I've got a fabulous purse.
Exactly.
The Zimmerman-Pierce Democrats, and we're going to have to remind people of that because they're going to like forget that. They're going to see it like I did and say Pierce instead of purse. Thank you both so much for being here tonight. I mean, you're both such incredible advocates for the LGBTQ plus community. And, I'm going to just open up with the question. When I heard you were first doing this, I was like, we have in Pike County, we've got Democratic organizations, but we didn't have one specifically geared to LGBTQ causes, needs. And tell me what made you guys think to do this?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it has to do with something that you said in the introduction, that we live in rural Pennsylvania, and the work that we do here will hopefully influence and inspire other rural communities that don't have the benefit of a New York City or a Chicago or other places like that have centralized everything. And over the last few years, we have seen an escalating amount of attacks on the LGBTQ community when it comes to all these different bills they're introducing in the state legislature. First, 2021 set the record, and then 22 beat it, and then 23 beat it, and we're already on pace to beat the record again this year because Republicans have figured out that they can use, in particular, transphobia to mobilize their base. And I think it's as simple as that. Yes, they attack drag queens. Yes, they talk about gay marriage sometimes, but the focal point really is the transphobia.
Absolutely.
And for us, it had to be Democrats because we see where the line is drawn in states across the country, but in Pennsylvania is no exception. It's the Democrats that are trying to protect us and the Republicans that are trying to attack us. So it's that simple.
So thank you both for brainstorming and coming up with this organization. It's very exciting for us. And I also like my perception. I think as we get closer to the election, we're going to need shields, okay, which are organizations, people, allies, however you want to look at it, that are on the more protective side, because you can already feel, I can anyway, the veneer being scraped away. And, you are, when you come up with an organization representing LGBTQ causes, you're forming a kind of protection for people. It says, hey, we're inclusive, but we are addressing your specific needs. Listen, Democrat, I'm a Democrat, right? John, sometimes we've talked about progressive Democrats versus regular Democrats, and some things I'm progressive on, and then I realize on other things I'm not, but I am humanitarian, and, my agenda is equal rights for everybody. It shouldn't even be a question. We shouldn't even be having this conversation at this point in 2024, and yet here we are. Now, I want to play a little bit of getting to know you, getting to know all about you. Lisa Jenkins, how did all of this come about for you? You are an amazing ally, I have to say.
Thank you. Well, so I spent almost 20 years working as a social worker and a case manager and doing all those boots on the ground thing. And then I moved to Milford, met all of you, and got involved with Triversity. And in the course of working with Triversity, John and I realized that there's a need for advocacy and education of the constituency that we couldn't do in that venue. So that's basically where the conversations for this came from.
Right. And that's how it grew from.
Yeah, exactly.
So, John, I know you have a huge background. Like you sent me this resume with like one bullet point after the next.
I know.
But if you can, in so many words, tell us a little bit about your background and how you got involved.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing advocacy related things for the last 15 years now. It started off when I was living in New York City, and I was working in nonprofits that dealt with HIV and AIDS and LGBTQ issues. And then when we moved out here, that's when I really started getting involved in Democrat related things. And 2 years ago, I was a first-time campaign manager for Meg Rosenfeld, who ran for the 139th district. And last year, I did some field work for Krista Caceres, who won for Pike County Commissioner. And this year, I am the field director for Robin Skibber, who's running for the 139th. And I was chosen to be a DNC delegate for President Biden. So I get to go to Chicago in August and wave flags and try to get camera time so I can represent Pike County somehow.
Well, no, here's what you're going to do. You're going to have your phone with you, and you're going to like tape yourself there. I got it all worked out for you, John.
Of course, please. I need all your help.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the perfect platform. And for you, it really is the icing on the cake, because I've watched how you have inserted yourself in, we were together at Triversity. What is it, like 8 years, 7 years?
It's 7 years, yeah.
7 years. And you came in as an advocate, and you would do surveys and things like that. But I watched you blossom from that into becoming a very hands-on person and starting to work in local politics. What do you think? Pike County is known as red, right? Why do you think you can make a difference, and what do you think you're going to have to do to make a difference?
So you bring up a good point. Pike County is, for the most part, a Republican. More Republicans are registered to vote here than Democrats and independents. And it's also true that Pike County has the most same-sex couples per capita than anywhere else in the state of Pennsylvania. And we know that LGBTQ people have roots here. Part of the logic behind us naming the organization Zimmerman-Pierce is because Marie Zimmerman and James Mills Pierce had roots here from the late 1800s, early 1900s. And Marie Zimmerman lived here with her partner, a woman. And James Mills Pierce was a very early outspoken advocate for LGBTQ people. Right. So this idea that we just got here or go back to the city, our history contradicts that. We have roots here. Pike County has always been a welcoming place for everybody, including our community. So Absolutely. Let's honor that tradition and educate our neighbors about that tradition so that when we move forward, we can move forward together.
Exactly. So what I see, and Lisa, please jump in on this. It's a two, what do they call, two-pronged fork here, right? Educating people that really have inbred hate. And then we have, even in our LGBTQ community, a lot of people, you're right, we have a huge gay community, but we got a lot of people that just don't want to get involved.
Right.
They don't want any part of this kind of thing, or Triversity, or you'll say, hey, are you going to this event or that? No, I'm not political that way. So what do you think? And Lisa, I'm throwing this to you first. What do you think is a good way to get around that? Because that's a challenge, I think.
Well, I don't think there's any magic cure to that. I think it's just constant boots on the ground, being out there, providing the education, knocking the doors, talking to the people. I don't think there's a magic cure, but I think we have made progress because now they realize we're there, and it makes it a little bit easier. But I don't think there's any instant cure for that beyond just doing the work.
Right. Now, have you found, because we have other Democratic organizations, have you found people attracted to yours because it is LGBTQ?
I think.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we launched officially on February 1st of this year, and we set a goal for having 50 members for the entire year,
Yeah.
and we're almost at 40. And
Right.
I think that Democrats who are either donating or joining the organization, or just Democrats that are doing the other essential work in other parts of the county or on other issues, their response has been, yes, please more. I
Right.
mean, we
Right.
need more people to come out and not be ashamed of saying that they're Democrat here or saying that they're LGBTQ here.
Right.
And I think
Right.
we still see a lot of people, and it's funny the parallels between Democrats that say this and LGBTQ people say this. There are still people that say we had no idea there were more people like us out there. We thought we were the only one.
Yeah.
And
Quite often.
just yesterday, I posted. We just started this series of having some of our drag queen friends read excerpts from books that the far right are trying to ban in the state.
I think
And
that's great. It's entertaining and it
Yeah.
really gets the message across.
And we
But
posted
wait for
one
it.
yesterday on
Yeah.
TikTok, and there was a young trans man that reached out to me and said, "Hey, my family and I are moving here. We're so happy to see that there are people that will have our back, and we exchange information. And
Mhm.
this trans kid's parents are going to join the organization when they
Right.
move here." So it's like we have to do like Lisa said, just get the work, get our message out there, make sure that it's consistent so that more people come out of the woodwork and share our courage to change this nonsense that keeps happening.
Well, I think, what you're saying, if you build it, they will come, right?
Right.
That saying, and that seems to be, I also think it helps. Let's see, we have Pike County Democrats, we have Delaware Valley Action, and there's a third one. What's the third one?
So we have the Delaware Dingman Township Democratic Club.
Okay.
But we also have the Eastern Pike Democrats. We have the Lehman Democrats, the Blooming Grove Democrats.
But you know what?
all
This is
pockets.
but look at how cool that is. Think about that, because we started off talking and I said, Pike County is perceived as red for the most part. But if we have all these pockets of people that are Democrats, there's power in numbers. I don't have to tell you guys that. There's absolutely power in numbers. So, how do you want to try and recruit people through? I know you sent out memberships, which were great. Very smart thing to do. What are some other ways you're thinking of?
Well, my husband said this, I think, a week or two ago, that a part of our primary mission is to create the right vibe for people.
Yeah.
to
That's
come
something your
out.
husband would say too. He would
Yeah,
just-
that's John Henry written all over
Yeah.
all over
yeah,
it.
vibe, right? The vibe has to be right.
And I think we're going to approach this two different ways. We want to do the political events and the educational events, but we also want to do fun events and create spaces that we want to see here. And on April 21st, we have a prom. And Lisa, do you want to talk a little bit more about it?
Yes, let's
So
talk about the prom.
So it's going to be just a reason to come together, have fun, dance, have some food, while you're also realizing that the world is on fire. But we can take a moment to dance, to have some fun, to eat some good food by, a LGBTQ member of the communities.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Doug Decatur from Phoenix. And it's just, there's not going to be kings and queens, but everyone's going to have a chance to be royalty. There's going to be some surprise guests, some surprise honorees. But it's just
we get to wear our prom outfits, right? So we get to wear prom.
Oh my God, yeah.
Like, Wendy, you said this
And the
years
flash
ago
better.
About events up here. We need more events where we can dress up in our glitz and glam. So that this is an opportunity for people
or
to do
costumes or whatever. But like, I'm always like, that's, really where, because you know what, when people get dressed like that, then it's fun. It's not serious. It's delirious. And we're there for serious cause, but it should be
having some fun,
right?
while we're saving democracy.
Right.
Right. Oh my God, Lisa, that's a great buzzword. Having fun while we're saving democracy on the t-shirts. Yes.
There you go.
Having fun while we're saving democracy.
Saving democracy.
So, I broadcast from New York, and because my husband's been very sick, I have not been out to PA. I stay in touch, of course, and I'm on everything. But my question, I guess, to you is this time last year, there was so much stuff about the school board that I was hearing all the time. I know you all were involved in it. What is going on now with the school board? I'm not reading all this stuff, and I'm not seeing, excerpts on Facebook of what happened at the school board meeting. So can you fill me in and our listeners in a little bit on that?
Well, so part of the reason why you heard a lot of stuff last year is because last year was an election year. And we have now been able to see what some of the new school board members are prioritizing. And I think last month, I went to a school board meeting at the Delaware Valley School District, which is the largest school district in Pike County. And after a presentation by the staff that run all the mental health services of the entire school district, so the high school, middle school, the whole thing, 3 of the school board members who are Republican, they shifted the questions to talk about outing trans kids. And
it makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah, I mean, and this is something that we see across the country. Yeah. This is the Moms for Liberty agenda to make the lives of LGBTQ students a living nightmare. And so what the mental health services people said is that they want to include the parents as much as possible, and they will inform the parents if the kid is at risk of a danger to themselves or to other people. So by them asking, shouldn't counselors or school social workers tell their parents if they're trans, they're equating self-harm and harm to others with trans identity. And they're utilizing the fact that sex and gender are very complicated. We all have one or multiple, and we don't have any education around it. Or if some of us did, it's in the small minority of people, and they're relying on ignorance and misinformation to scare people into voting Republican. And the fact that they are choosing the topic of outing trans kids and not all the other issues that we know the school faces, because the students don't have enough access to services. There's all these other things that are happening, and this is the choice they're making.
Right. But without even being there, first of all, not surprised. Second of all, really typical if you follow what's going on all over the country with this kind of agenda. Okay. Third of all, we had a vigil Sunday night for Next Benedict, who succumbed to her injuries from having her head hit on the bathroom floor. I think one of the most horrific things about this is the school administrator was not held accountable at all for this. This is another classic example. A child has died, a beautiful child has died, and nobody's held accountable. And this under the rug sweeping that you're talking about, because that's exactly what it is, or shifting the focus or whatever, they should be totally held liable for that,
Absolutely.
Well, and part of our goal, not to spoil it for the Republicans that are up for school board election next November, but we are going to give them a fight for a seat that they've never seen before, and we want to vote them all out. They've shown what their priorities are. Their silences have shown the community that they're not willing to stand up for any of our community members.
That's part of the arsenal they use, though, is that silence, not doing anything. It's part of what they use. It's one of the weapons,
If you're on a train track and the train is running to you and you could say something to save that person, but you choose not to,
that's what it is. Yeah.
The murder's on your hands too.
Yeah. I totally agree with you with that. So have you gotten any pushback in the community when you've been letting people know about this? I'm just curious, either on social media or out there at all?
Not yet. No.
Okay.
I think we're being very precise.
Yeah, we're not
in our forward motion.
Yeah, we're not gonna we're gonna show up with receipts. And if if a Republican doesn't like what we have to say, they have their own record to blame. We're not going to call people any kinds of names. We're not going to mischaracterize their things. They've already done the work for us to show us who they are. So if they have a problem with it, then you have every opportunity to make a different choice.
Yeah, that is exactly right. I think what is the most for me alarming is the person that looks like, and I don't know, maybe running on the Republican side, we all know who it is, still like out there, still saying horrific things and still having tons of people follow them. And again, John and Lisa, I have no idea how to change that mindset. I really don't, John, in my world, right? I know some very fine Republicans that are not going to vote for him, and they follow just what do they call it? Republican principles, right? Whatever those are, fiscal or pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. But it's nothing bad. It's just their belief, and it's a different belief than me.
Right.
But the broader picture is the people that are empowering someone that caused chaos on January 6th in this country, and that person is still walking around and spreading this toxicity. To me, it's really, really scary. And I'm very apprehensive in Pike County about how that's going to manifest itself as we get closer to the election. I'll just leave it at that, It puts us all in a very precarious position because, we have businesses in Pike County owned by certain people that you don't want to go into anymore because I'm not even going to use the word Republican. I'm going to say it because they support crazy hate shit, really bad, How do we get around that? Or can those minds be changed, or do we just lift up all the people that want to lift everybody else up? What do you think?
I don't know about you, but I think we are finding as we do this work that the hate-filled, scary people are a smaller group than we are, but they've just intimidated everyone to think they're alone, they're isolated, there's not that many of us. I think it's just a matter of letting them know that they aren't the only ones out there. And we hear that all the time. People will say, I had no idea there was this going on in Pike County. I had no idea that there was groups that would support us. So I just think it's a matter of being as loud in a more polite way.
Right.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And we are competing with a media machine that is very well oiled. It's obvious that the people at Fox News and One America and all these other places, like, they know their psychology. They know that fear is an easy way to control people.
And they know their target audience really well.
Yeah. Right. So what we have to do, and what we continue seeing success in, is showing up and talking to people one-on-one. We try not to, I try not to say anything bad about anyone on social media because that can get screenshot and spun.
Right.
But
and I'm very glad you said that, because you don't want to, believe me, you don't want to do that. And they're just waiting for that. They're waiting for you to do that.
You're absolutely right. And I think it's much harder for someone to call us all the names that they call us if they're standing right in front of us.
Right.
And I think that is, it's a lot of work, but that is where our power resides, in our ability to share our story, show people that we are neighbors first. And
I actually think that is, considering where we're talking about, like the Neighbors First campaign, I think that's really brilliant. I think that's a great way to reach all those people that said, oh, we didn't know that this was even happening in Pike County.
Well, we had Malcolm Kenyatta here this weekend, and one of the things that he said when someone asked him, how do you combat this, is you have to come at it with compassion, kindness, and consideration before you do anything else. And I think that's true. I think that's more important than facts sometimes. People
Well, Lisa, what he's saying, right? He's saying take the high road. Right.
Which isn't always easy, but he's not wrong.
I got to tell you guys, and you know this, I have a really hard time. I dial it down. Like the minute I can feel it, like forming on my lips, and it's happened a couple of times. I'm like, I have to psychologically tell myself to take a breath. The first thing I want to say, how could you be so ill-informed? Why are you not smart? I know these are crazy, irrational things, but I react emotionally. And I'm sure Malcolm Kenyatta said that is the worst way to react. You can't.
Yeah, it's really important, especially now. The news cycle and social media are designed to keep you emotional and reactive.
Absolutely.
And we have to be able to be grounded and step away from that, because we don't need to add more chaos to chaos.
Right.
I will never forget, and there's video of this on the Pike County Commissioner's website for anyone that wants to challenge me. Last June, when I sat there and we were trying to get a Pride proclamation passed that ultimately did not.
I remember.
Because the two Republicans decided that it was a concern for our safety, whatever nonsense it was. I had the chair of the Pike County Council of Republican Women stand 6 feet away from me, call me a pedophile and a groomer, and then in the next sentence say, we need to have a love and kindness day. So I know that they're obviously speaking from a place of fear.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be rational with someone that's not ready to hear rational thought. So we have to be able to hold space for people to come, invite them in. And we're not going to get everybody. We're not going to get some of the leaders of the Republican Party locally. And that is what it is.
Right.
But I know that, and we, like Lisa and I are door knocking buddies, and we see this time and time again, where you just need to listen to people and say, that sounds frustrating. And then you have a connection with them, and they'll be more likely to listen to you.
Right. It's interesting because that's a ploy when you have problems like with AT&T or any of those companies. That is, they're like, I'm so sorry that you were so frustrated by this. But you know what? That works. Because
it absolutely does. We had someone.
I'm on your side, I'm on your side.
Yeah. We had someone, I remember I was with Meg Rosenfeld, the candidate from 2 years ago, and we were knocking on a door, and these two people wanted to talk about how much they hated Democrats, how much they hated Nancy Pelosi, how much they hated Joe Biden. And we said, you sound really frustrated. You sound really angry. They invited us in. They gave us water. We had a 20-minute conversation that was calm. It was productive. And I believe that they voted for Meg after that. So we just got to get over that first initial barrier of like, hey, buddy, like, and then maybe it'll lead to a really productive, good conversation.
Well, you said something earlier in our conversation that social media is set up to be reactive. And that's exactly the situation you were in. But you had the beauty of making it past that, using the buzzwords that you needed to use to get in the door, and actually sitting down and having a conversation. When you are a keyboard warrior, you never get that chance. Exactly. And when people are hiding behind their keyboards, right, they become big and powerful, and they can say whatever they want. It's funny. I have another wonderful friend that does the door-to-door thing, as I call it. And Evan has done it majorly. He's one of the people that takes the bus, like, to, godforsaken parts of the country in Ohio. Evan lives in New York, and he knocks on doors in these places. I have never done that. I honestly don't. And as easy as it is for me to talk to people, I would be so worried about you don't have an appointment or anything. You just go up to the door and knock.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I'd rather do that than phone call.
Yeah. It's
the phone call thing is terrible.
Oh, terrible.
Like,
so terrible.
We've been I mean, we've been door knocking together, but also separately for the last 3 years now for quite a bit. Not once has someone been like, wait, you're that drag queen groomer. Not once has someone like no one is
ever said that.
Trying to do that. People, I mean, there's plenty of people that don't want to talk.
Right.
And they'll say either politely or not, like, I don't want to talk. And it's like, okay, fine.
Yep.
But no one is trying to fight someone at the door.
Right.
At least in our experience.
Right. Well, I still think that that's pretty brave, because people can be really nasty, especially when they're not expecting. Listen, I've been mean to the Jehovah Witnesses. I'm sorry, I'm focusing that on here. That's terrible. No, because you know what? It's like you're coming out of the shower or something. You throw your robe on, someone's at your door. You think, I don't know, maybe it's the oil man or the heat man or something. And it's, two lovely little ladies or girls, young girls, with little Bibles and very high-pitched voices. And that's when I have to reel it in and say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm in the middle of something, not interested today. Have a nice day. I have to remember my kindness, right? but I've been the person inside the door and you're like, who the hell is that? And what do they want? You never know the reaction you're going to get from somebody.
That's very true. So that's why I just peek around the dining room window and ignore the door, but that's a whole different subject.
Oh, really? That's your secret, Lisa Jenkins. So, what has brought you to advocacy, in your upbringing? Lisa, I'll start with you.
Oh, when you grow up in a household where you hear anybody can be anything, everybody is the same, but you see it not be that.
Right.
You end up, I don't know, at least I did, veering towards, but I want it to be that. And then it seems like a natural kick the can down the road where, okay, so then how do I make that happen? And I'm just in Milford, particularly, have been able to find outlets where there's people who feel the same way that I work really well with, and it has made that a lot easier to do. But I guess basically it is, you want the world to be what you were taught it was, and it turned out not to be.
That's very well put. I always and still see the rose through rose-colored glasses, right? And I want the best for people. For a long time, I only saw the good in people, and that wasn't so smart because some of the people I saw good in weren't good people at all. It was me wanting them to be good, right? But I was raised, we all are our brother's keeper or our sister's keeper.
Yeah.
You take care of other people. I come from a borough. That's how it is. You cover your friends, you cover your neighbors, you certainly cover your family. John, what about you?
Yeah, I think for me, it was, I grew up in a very, I grew up in a multiracial household. And there were always these family dynamics that sometimes emerged that I couldn't really understand. And there are a lot of women in my family as well on both sides. And it was visible for me from a very young age of like, there are differences here with how people are being treated, or there are differences here with why someone feels pain more than someone else.
Did this have to do with the fact that it was multiracial?
I think that, and the fact that women face a living nightmare since the beginning of time here. I remember in high school, because I was a debater and I was a policy debater, I was introduced to feminism. I was introduced to very liberal and leftist philosophy. And it really helped me put words and concepts to things that I felt and didn't have the words for prior. And it was really, that's like everything else just happened from there. I wanted to study it. I wanted to be an academic about it. In college, I became a little baby activist and helped start Boston College's first ever recognized LGBTQ group my sophomore year.
Wait, Boston College is a Catholic college.
And my freshman year, the Princeton Review had it as the most homophobic school in the country. and which I didn't know going in.
So you're a little naive, I would say, right? Back in those days, you had no idea.
No, I didn't. I only applied to PC because I heard upperclassmen say that they got in, and I didn't even know anything about it. Oh my God, to be young. But yeah, I continue to, like Lisa said, I want to make sure that I can do what I can, and we can do what we can, so that people can live their lives with a smile, without this unnecessary, with the advancements that we have in medicine, in mental health, in our ability to build things. We should not be the only county without a hospital in the state of Pennsylvania.
My mind.
We should not have 10 to 50 potholes in a 15-minute drive on major throughways that everyone uses. Like, we should not have this. We know the answers to this. So I guess we have to be part of the courage to put the solutions we already know to problems that everyone says that they have.
Right.
Like, it's the problem is very simple. It's these other folks that are making it very, very difficult to do these very basic things that are incredibly popular for everyone.
Right, that you think will work for everyone. And do you think that by voting in the right candidates, that will make the difference?
Absolutely.
Yes.
A huge part of it.
Republicans have been in the majority or other in this county for the majority of its history. So one has to assume that it's in this condition because of the powers that be.
Right.
The 139th district, which is most of Pike and about a third of Wayne, has never been held by a Democrat and has never been held by a woman. So
and 139th is now Democratic for the first time in 24 years?
No,
Probst.
Oh yeah, so the 189th, we have a Representative Tara Probst, and she is showing.
She's amazing.
She is, oh my God,
Incredible.
She's passing legislation left and right that actually helps people.
Yep.
And what is the threat there?
Right. No, everyone that you've talked about, and Krista Caceres, if you look at her background, these are all people that actually have a track record of making change. Too often there's lip service, and that's what we've seen a lot of, I think, in Pike County. I mean, you brought up the roads. I don't know who to blame, but it's really embarrassing when you cross over from New York State, where Port Jervis is 12 minutes away, and you cross over into, Pike County, and the roads the potholes are huge. I don't understand that mentality at all. That's the stick your head in the sand, sweep under the rug, and just let things be the way they are. What do you got to stir things up for?
Right, the way they've always been.
Right. So you all are here to stir it up.
Yes, please.
Because what else are we going to do? I mean, to the point that we were talking about earlier, at least with LGBTQ issues, the attacks are escalating nonstop.
Yeah.
So we could sit here and let this happen, or we could do whatever we can to stop it.
So I have a question that and it's not just for you, it's for our Democratic groups, and it's just in general. Moms for Liberty are having a meeting, a brouhaha in Milford, of all places. Can you imagine that?
Yes.
Is there their agenda is horrific. Is there any kind of buzzing that you've heard about, I don't know, tabling by the courthouse, giving people information, not from there, but people that might be passing through town? I think because you said it, there's people that come into Milford and they're like, oh, we didn't know this exists. Right. Having a table out there with someone standing at it on a weekend lets people know, hey, we do exist. So are there any plans like that in the future to reach people through tabling?
I mean, we'll do whatever we can to get in front of people. I mean, I know what event you're referencing. I don't think there's going to be any direct action as far as I understand.
Yeah, probably
But,
best not to.
yeah, I think
But
that
there will be action.
there will be action, and I
There
think
will
the
be
best way, and this applies to anyone listening from everywhere.
Right.
If you live in a county, which applies to 100% of you, there is a county Democratic committee, and there are people that maybe you didn't realize were making all of these decisions that lead
Right.
to your statewide candidates or your
Right.
national candidates. And we weren't really too involved until very recently,
Yeah.
but because we were doing the work and we're doing it the right way for the right reasons,
Right reasons.
we can now say that we are part of the leadership of the local Democratic community. And
Right.
if you want to do that, there is a local county committee for you to start. Find allies like you because they exist out there. And you also could have like these two wild pro-LGBT people
Right.
be
On your
part of the
committees.
top.
Right.
Right.
Giving
It's
great
simple.
Find your in and then find your way.
Yeah.
I love that.
I love your spirit. I love your intention. I love that you have the platform that you have. I'm happy we have another Democratic committee. I mean, I think that bodes well for us. I don't know what the statistics are, but there's a lot of people moving out to where we are. You know, New York City and so many places have become prohibitively expensive. And let's just talk about the fact that many people can work from home. Their jobs are remote.
Mhm.
So how great to be able to offer this democracy to new people that are moving in to say, hey, you know what, we can do this for you here. This is what we're about. And I think, again, getting the word out, which is always the hardest thing. You know, you guys know in Triversity, when you had your open hours that both of you were at, people would walk in and they would say incredulously, oh my God, I never knew that this existed. I don't understand why, because we're on a main street with a giant flag. But I really don't understand, you know, how it's on the main street. It's not like in an alleyway or something. But again, people, I think, are moving out of cities a lot more. The cities have become prohibitively expensive. And having something like Zimmerman-Pierce, oh, I said it correctly,
Yes.
is a wonderful welcome wagon for them and their families when they come into town. You know, I hope you all plan on doing a barbecue. I just sense.
Of course.
Okay, yeah, summer like screams barbecue, and that would be like really cool to have.
Hey, that sounds like a plan. Oh,
Right.
as long as you'll be there.
Wait, are you on that committee, Wendy?
I'm on the help with events committee, and that goes, you know, that's with the Black Bear Film Festival. That's with everything. I don't have official titles. I really hate those. The official titles mean nothing to me. I just like do whatever I can when I can do it. And you know what? That works out really, really good for me.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah.
You know, I don't need to have a title. Well, we're down to our last couple of minutes, and Juan usually sends me like a little message. He didn't send it to me, but I guess I need to be on my own code of honor tonight. We're down to the wire here. It's your platform. You can say whatever you want. So tell the folks who are listening what you want them to hear.
Just please, please get involved. It can feel really disempowering sometimes when we think about politics. And part of that, there's a little bit of truth to that, but the falsehood is that you do not have power to be part of the change. And it only takes a few people sometimes to get something in motion to cause a significant boon. So
Absolutely right.
If you want to be part of our work, you can visit our website, which is zpdems.org. And you can use that. That's also our handle on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And please read about what we're doing. donate to our work if you're interested in helping our LGBTQ community in our rural neck of the woods.
And if you're in Milford on March 28th, come by the DBA offices on Broad Street because we're doing a community conversation in honor of Women's History Month and the effects of Roe being overturned and how that ties in with the LGBTQ community.
I love it. And I love community conversations. That's what it's all about at the end of the day. And the very last thing I do before I say bye-bye, I love to take a picture. So everybody say cheese. One more and another. Great. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for everything you shared with our audience. Please share this on your social media, so people know who you are and what you're about, and we get a lot of people to show up at things. That's what it's about. It is about at the end of the day.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you. We love you.
Thank you all. And thank you to our listeners out there. See you all next week. Good night.